projection spreadsheet. Now, if you've used one of the standardized templates uploaded to the Pitch Project VLE in week 5, then you'll be able to do this with some ease. Here we have the Scenario A spreadsheet, although all three of the spreadsheets are relatively similar, and the advice that I'm going to give you here for Scenario A would equally apply to Scenarios B and C. It's basically exactly the same series of actions that you need to take in order to create your break-even chart. Now, the beautiful thing about this spreadsheet is that it goes up to month 36, which seems like a lot of work, but actually it's not, because most of the spreadsheet is automated with various formula, and you can of course simply drag and copy lines of fixed costs from one column to another. So really planning your finances for 12 months is no different really in terms of the workload than planning your finances for 36 months. As I said, the beauty of having all 36 months accounted for is that you will be able to produce a very accurate and complete break-even chart, and the break-even is super important. It is nothing more or less than the point at which your business will stop making a loss and start making a profit. And any financial stakeholder in your company, be that a lender or an investor, will want to know that information. That's pretty much the most important piece of financial information that they will have. So anyway, this is an example fully completed of the spreadsheet scenario figures. We have, just let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see it. All right, we have the occupancy rate recorded in the blue cells across the top here, and we see that this particular care home business starts to ramp up from the 30 original residents to the full complement of 60 or thereabouts in around month 12. You'll see that the other key aspects of Scenario A, the care home scenario, are incorporated here as well. There's the rent holiday until month 6, so of course, sorry, until month 7. So you can see here that we only start paying rent from month 7. And then there's of course the business rates holiday until month 13. You can see that the business rates there only start in month 13. So this really is quite an accurate financial model based on the key facts of Scenario A, the care home scenario. Now, of course, if you're doing Scenario B or C, your mileage may vary, but you will know if you've downloaded and used these standardized spreadsheets. Of course, there is one for each of the scenarios A, B and C. You'll know that they work in a very, very similar way. So always in the blue squares across the top, or the blue cells here in line 8, you have the unitized sales. Here in column C, you have the per unit income. Of course, for the care home scenario, the per unit income is the income per resident, depending of course on the research that you've done, where your care home is located, which local authority, and the type of residents that you'll be catering for. You'll probably find that on a weekly basis you're able to charge maybe £850 to £1,050. So here we have the unit. This is a researched figure that the student has produced based on the location of their care home and the research they've done there. So all of the revenue is accounted for. Number of residents here, for example, in month 1 is 30 multiplied by the monthly revenue for each resident, and that formula is given here in cell E11. Okay, so all of our revenue is accounted for. You can see that all of the fixed costs have been accounted for month by month. Promotions, utilities, business rates, rent, director salaries, all of the costs that don't change with the volume of business that we're doing. And here we have the unitized costs, all of the costs that do vary according to the number of residents that we have. So what we have here in the blue column is all of the per resident costs per month associated with things such as food, insurance, staffing, and so on. Startup items are also accounted for. Okay, so we have the startup injection of money, that's the 40,000 local government loan, and we also have some startup costs, including office furniture, network infrastructure, and certain startup costs that are fixed as well. So what we want to do then is produce a break-even chart with one line for our total monthly expenses and one line for our total monthly revenue. Now we could do that using the totals given in the chart. So row 17 here gives our total revenue for the month, and row 51 gives our total costs for the month. We don't really want to produce the chart using those rows, because those rows, in addition to containing the data, also contain some formulas. So what we really want to do then is copy those rows to an empty row, so that and in such a way that the formulas aren't copied as well, and we just have the data. So that's actually something very straightforward to do. I've just made the spreadsheet a little bit smaller so that you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm doing first of all then is moving over here to column E. That's month 1. We don't want the startup items to be included in our break-even chart, because break-even only applies to revenue generated through trading and costs incurred through trading. Of course, startup items, your business isn't even trading yet. So we're starting in month 1. We simply position the cursor in the total revenue cell for month 1. We drag the selection across to month 36 inclusive. We don't want to go into the total column, we just want the monthly numbers. All right, so that's our total revenue month by month between month 1 and month 36. And we simply right click on that selection, brings up a menu, and we just want to copy that row. Okay. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to paste it here underneath the main spreadsheet, but we want to do something special at this point, and this is really the only trick that we're doing in this entire process. What we want to do is paste the values only, the totals for monthly revenue. We don't want to paste the formulas that actually create that data. So once again, we select the square, the cell where we want this data series to start, then we right click again with the mouse, and it will bring up a menu within which we have different paste options. So what we want to do is select Paste Special. That brings up yet another sub-menu, and we just want to paste the values, so that's what we select. So it's right click on the spare cell that we want to put the data series into, then we select Paste Special, and then we just want the values. So we hit values, and you'll find, there we go. So that's everything copied basically from row 17, which is the totals row for our revenue, from month 1 through month 36. And then we do exactly the same with the expenses column, starting in month 1, not starting with startup items. So that's total cash paid out. In this particular spreadsheet, that is row 51, although of course if you've added or taken away rows in your own spreadsheet, your mileage may vary. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. With the white cursor, we simply click and drag over to month 36, then right click with the mouse, copy, and we'll just put this immediately underneath our revenue line, and again we paste special and we select values, and there we go. So now we've got one line of just data for revenue and one line of just data for expenses month by month. I'm going to put in some titles, so we want the title revenue for that data series, and we want the title costs for the bottom data series, and that's it. So we've done everything we need to do in terms of manipulating our data in order to produce a line chart with these two data series as lines. We've done everything we need to do. So having done that, we simply select both data series again by clicking on our top cell, which is revenue. I'm just going to make this smaller again so that I can select everything in one go. Alright, there we go. So just to show you that again, I've just clicked on the cell where the title revenue is, then holding down the left-hand mouse button, I select both lines of data for revenue and costs, like so. So they're selected, and what I can now do is tell Excel to produce a chart using those data series. And this is very simple. I go to the Insert menu. Now I'm using a MacBook which has a particular look and feel as regards the user interface in Microsoft Excel. Your mileage may vary if you're using a PC, but fundamentally the same menu options are available and the same features and facilities exist. So once again, we go to the Insert menu, and you'll see that in the menu ribbon, in the Insert menu, around the middle of the menu ribbon, you have all of the options for charts. And of course, we want to produce a line chart, so we select the line chart option. There we are, and that will bring up another menu where you can choose what kind of line charts you want. And we'll go for the simplest one, the 2D line chart, and we simply click on that, and there we go. Microsoft Excel has automatically created our break-even chart for us. Okay, and what's beautiful about this is that everything is labelled, so we don't have to label anything really. You can see here that the months are numbered 1 through 36. That's self-explanatory. There is a legend here at the bottom, so the blue line is revenue and the red line is costs. And really the only thing that we would need to do is just amend the chart title. Call that break-even chart for AAA Care Home, or whatever the name of your business is. And this works exactly the same whether you're doing scenario A, B or C. It just so happens that most of my students are healthcare students and they're doing the care home scenario, so I thought I would oblige them by using that as an example. Now, what you will normally find is that your company will break even at the point where your revenue line crosses your cost line. But in the case of the care home scenario, things are a little bit different. Remember, within the care home scenario, your two major line items as regard cost, which is the lease that you pay for the care home and the business rates that you pay, these don't kick in immediately. And don't forget, of course, that the care home is also a going concern. So you have this kind of holiday period to begin with, this fairly deceptive period where, look, you can see up until the end of month 6 in the care home scenario, your revenue, the blue line, is actually higher than your red line, which is cost. So actually, you are profitable from day 1 in the care home scenario. But then look, in month 7, suddenly your costs shoot up and you head back into making a loss. Of course, whenever the red line, the cost line, is higher than the revenue line, the blue line, then you're in loss-making territory. Why is that? Well, it's quite simple. It's because you only start paying a lease on the care home, you pay a lease to the local authority as from month 7. So this is actually quite true to life. It is very likely that after this kind of honeymoon period, when the costs of the lease kick in, if you've still only got your 30 of a possible 60 residents, it's likely that you will indeed be making a loss. And you can see then that this loss-making position continues until month, what's that, month 19. And then finally, in month 19, the revenue line starts to edge above the cost line and you become marginally profitable. And this is, again, quite true to life regarding the care home scenario. It is indeed true that you would only start to make a profit once you start filling the care home up and approaching the full capacity of 60 residents. In fact, if you look at month 19 in the spreadsheet, it is at month 19 that you have 47 residents in your home out of a possible 60, and that basically represents then the lowest proportion of residents to empty rooms that you can have in order to be profitable. That's something very useful to know. The fact that according to your financial projections, this business is due to stop making a loss and start making a profit, in other words, break even, in month 19 is something that would be very, very useful for any lender to know. So, I just wanted to explain the features of this break-even chart because they will vary depending on the type of business that you have. In a nutshell then, for scenario A, the care home scenario, it is likely that you will probably start off making some kind of profit. You'll then head into loss as the major costs, the rent and the business rates kick in, and then you will re-emerge slowly into profitability once you actually start reaching capacity as you go beyond maybe 50 residents out of a possible 60 within the scenario. If you're doing scenario B, the scenario with the recruitment agency for the automotive manufacturer, you might find that you have a similar pattern of being in profit, then heading into loss for a spell, and then heading back into profit, because that business will develop in 3 phases according to the scenario. And the same may very well be true for scenario C. Scenario C is, of course, the most open-ended. But depending on what your business development plans are, if, for example, you start off with one product line and then maybe after you break even, you trade and build up some cash for, let's say, another 6 months, and let's say then at maybe, I don't know, month 18, you want to introduce a new product line, you may need to hire more staff, you may need to invest in new machinery, that might put you into a loss-making position for a few months. So it may be simplistic to expect then that you will simply have one break-even point over the 36 months of the planning period. You might experience several. As long as you understand why that is, as long as you've modelled your finances appropriately using well-researched figures, that should be no problem at all. And of course you can see how this break-even chart contains an awful lot of useful information. It really condenses everything in the spreadsheet into a very visual and readily understandable format. So I strongly advise then that rather than trying to copy and paste the entire spreadsheet into your presentation slides, which would look awful and would be very difficult to follow and very confusing, you simply create at the minimum a break-even chart. Now, using the same technique that I've shown you for copying the lines of data for total revenue and total costs, you could also produce a chart showing how your cash changes over the period. So let me just demonstrate how that works, because it's very similar. So I'm just going to delete the break-even chart. All right. Now, cash is, of course, a different matter. What we want to show maybe is the amount of cash that we have on hand at the start of every month. This is particularly important for a startup business. It is well said that cash is king. We need to make sure that the cash in our business does not dip below a certain level, otherwise we may very quickly become insolvent. So if you want to show the level of starting cash for each month, we don't even need to copy and paste any data because everything's here set out for us. What we can just do is select rows 4 and 5. All right, and again we're going from month 1 through to month 36. Okay, and again we just produce a chart using that data. Okay, so we go to Insert, Line Chart, 2D Line Chart. There we go. Now this is particularly interesting. All right, this shows that the business is in a very healthy position as regards cash. So look, up until month 7, the business is accumulating cash very quickly, but of course that's because the major expense in scenario A, the rent, the lease of the care home, that doesn't actually kick in until month 7. Now of course as soon as that major cost does kick in, the business really is losing cash at quite a dramatic rate, and this kind of pinch point occurs between maybe month 18 and month 22, when the business is in actually quite a bad position as regards cash. And then of course once the numbers of residents start approaching full capacity, the cash reserves build up again. But this is something that would not be particularly desirable for any small business owner. Ideally, after nearly two years of trading, your cash reserves would not be approaching 0. This could be a problematic time for this particular business, and it's not something that you would want to simply brush under the carpet as regards your investor. You would actually want to tackle this head on and say, what is your strategy for dealing with the relatively low cash reserves at this point in the evolution of your business? Okay, so there we go. I've shown you how to produce a break-even chart and also how to chart your opening cash month by month. Very simple process. I hope that was useful, and I hope you will take heed of this advice and produce these kinds of charts for inclusion in your own pitch presentations. Thank you very much.